Nice little nod to the 70s TV show. And speaking of other iterations, I give them credit for acknowledging that another film already did the origin story thing and just summing it up quick in the opening credits. Also, getting your powers, pissing off your dad's girlfriend, and then getting hunted by the US military montage is the fastest way for Edward Norton to get as ripped as Tyler Durden. Also, Edward Norton's workout routine. Also, Edward Norton is always a win. That's not Hulk. There's the Hulk. Well, David Banner. Hulk's personal trainer makes me miss the truffle shuffle. Also, I really like that Bruce is learning martial arts in general, especially a defensive subdue your opponents type one. It makes sense for Banner to be able to defend himself and escape and not get angry. Even without knowing what happens, the filmmakers do a great job of alerting us that the way this factory is shot should make you feel uncomfortable. And that's why. You ever put super glue on a cut like that? Last time I did it, I hulked out. I guess I just don't have the breathing training Bruce does. The good news is that there's no way anyone would drink a Pingo Doce with a red cloud in it. Oh, well, if there's anyone that deserves Hulk powers, it's Stan. But now that we know he's a watcher, or whatever he is, makes sense he wouldn't go full Hulk.
Mi deixo com fome. ¿Qué? Não bang quando eu fome.
Bruce, have a Snickers. You get all hulky when you're hungry. Ghetto centrifuge. Not words you'd usually expect to hear together. Actually, I guess it would be a favela centrifuge? It's like you haven't met you. You didn't know that would make your blood angry? You know me, I'm never one to complain about a sunset up-angle villain intro.
See a fighter.
And Blonsky's first words are such a perfect encapsulation of his character. Is there a challenge? Will I get tested? I literally couldn't care about anything else. You know, I'll give them credit. They had a great opportunity to really solidify our hatred of Blonsky, but they held back and let him trank the dog. This quick chase is fun and tense, but one thing it does really well is show off the cramped alleys of Brazil. And how confusing the geography can be. But I love that Bruce has clearly planned out this escape route with pitfalls and probably practiced it. Putting that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to use. What a shot, the light only highlighting his eyes. I mean, no one deserves to be thrown through 2 windows, but you know, comeuppance. And brutal. This is a pretty sick way to introduce the Hulk. Tranquilizers or regular bullets can't penetrate his skin, he's throwing full-grown men around like Beanie Babies, and his blood-curdling voice. Hulk is introed like a horror villain this time around, which is appropriate. He's a terrifyingly uncontrollable force. And I like that the first thing Hulk says is... It's like a glimpse into the piece of Banner that's still in there, or at the very least how similar the two are. Another stunning shot. Little snippets like this are the one thing that set this movie and the director, Louis Leterrier, apart. Sorry for butchering your name.
It's the most powerful thing I've ever seen.
I love how Blonsky was almost crushed by a forklift frisbee and is pretty much immediately obsessed with the power that is Hulk.
¿Dónde estoy?
In Guatemala.
So I got all excited to map out how big his jumps would have to be, do a little math, and to see if it was feasible to travel that distance in a day, and it turns out Reddit already did it. Thanks, Jared Cheetah. It's not the Incredible Hulk's fault that Stewie ruined the emotion of this original score from the 1978 show. In fact, anything worth parodying in a cartoon is worth a win. Yeah, those aren't purple enough. They make it so clear what the impact an incident has on Bruce's life and exactly why he'd want to avoid it. He has to start all over in a new city now. Should I start giving out epic eyebrow wins? Because those are something special.
There's one other thing.
But here we are again with Danny giving Jack Teller a job. Alright, I wrote that a week ago and that name means nothing to me now. The score. I'm talking about the score.
You are the man.
Well, technically he wasn't the man, he was the Hulk. What? Guilfoyle is everywhere. But seeing this guy turn into a giant green monster might lead to Satanism. You'd think Edward might prefer McAfee. Poor Phil. I'd listen to your stories, Phil. I'd always listen to your stories. Hugging. One thing I love about Louis' style are these slow and smooth camera movements when shooting dialogue. It adds an extra level of reality to conversations. Lots of green in this film, but this one is fun as Blonsky goes into the room to get super soldiered and there's a green hue on the tile, which I assume is actually white. Yeah, nope. Ooh, smooth rack focus, where you shift focus between 2 subjects. Some fun attention to detail is the loose-fitting clothing that Bruce is always wearing, just in case. That's pretty amazing. I love the chase in Civil War, but this actually looks a little more realistic. And from what I understand, Tim Roth was basically using a high-tech version of those giant elastic bands he used for sprint training.
General, please!
While it's not a huge surprise to anyone who knows the backstory, I enjoyed that she pleads with him first as a citizen to an officer, but it's the familial relationship that finally breaks through to him. You shouldn't have done that, but so good that it's not a physical stimulus, but an emotional one that actually starts the transformation this time. Now that's an entrance. And aside from being a tad evil more than angry looking, Hulk CGI in full daylight is pretty exceptional. And a couple dolly zooms for emphasis. Yep. Yep. Also, yep. Just so much yep. And they do use the evilness to their advantage. Blonsky is actually the fun one to watch in this scene. Finesse and speed against pure savagery. Ugh, love the visualization of the sound waves having physical form smashing into Hulk, actually undulating his skin. Undulate, your Cinema Wins word of the week.
Is that all you got?
Courage, there is a line where courage crosses over into stupidity. And some people learn it in really brutal ways. Saving your Betty. Twice.
Bruce?
Nah. And that's a good way of illustrating that Hulk really isn't Bruce. Much like an angry and frightened puppy, lightning sounds a little too much like gunfire for his liking, even if he is still trying to protect Betty. Another thing that they play really well into is how terrible the recovery would be. Like a night of heavy drinking where you black out and exert a couple tens of thousands of calories per hour. Complete with hangover vomiting. Now we're talking. I feel like this is Bruce's Sarah Connor moment, and someday Doctor Strange is going to show him this picture and Bruce will be like, that looks nothing like me, dude. Tim Roth's creepy CGI body double workout routine?
Me in a metal tube deep underground with hundreds of people in the most aggressive city in the world.
Self-reflection.
You know, I know a few techniques could help you manage that anger very effectively.
You zip it.
Step 1, always be angry. Always a fan of impossible camera movements, unless he just timed his drop through the helicopter blades really well. It's an interesting move to hold the transformation effects until the last act, but man does it pay off. And CGI holds up pretty well.
Now do it!
First real hint at Stern's becoming the leader. Just like Blonsky, he's intrigued when he should be afraid.
We have the antidote now.
They don't want the antidote. They want to make it a weapon.
Ooh, this is a tense stacked up building scene. Bruce is already stressed because he's found out Mr. Blue has been synthesizing more of his blood, all while Blonsky is on his way up.
Why are you always hitting people?
While we have Delmar here cracking us up, I'm also loving the full-on attic sweat Mr. Orange has broken out into.
You look like you've got a little something in you already, don't you?
I love that line, because of course he's still more
Curious than cautious.
and you get these two Tims together and all ethical quandaries and moral hesitations go out the window.
The mixture could be an abomination.
Abominations can be beautiful in their own way. Leader shadowing. I like that the Abomination's intro into this world is done with a long take like this. Gives this scene a real sense of urgency. And for all those reviews I read about the Cloverfield scene, goodness gracious. The movies came out the same year. You think the director saw Cloverfield and then added this scene to his movie for a release a few months later? Alright, that's a badass Abomination. One thing this movie understands is speed and power. Potential self-sacrifice. Well, actually, it's a self-sacrifice either way for Bruce to be bringing Hulk back. So, self-sacrifice. I mean, I'll probably be fine, but it's gonna hurt. Would have been cool to turn first. But what an awesome hero moment for Banner. Up until this moment, he's been trying to escape and eventually delete the Hulk. In this one instance, he realizes the city needs Hulk. Also, gravity censoring. Badass Hulk. Yep. And straight up brutality. I love that look. This guy again? Resourcefulness.
You don't deserve this power. Now watch your death!
Hi, I'm Hulk. Have we met? You wouldn't like me when I'm hungry. Hulk wind.
Any last words? Hulk! Smash!
Brutal. But also, he took it and gave it back, so generosity. Also, persistence. I'm glad you eventually changed your name to Bruce. I found the absolute astounding alliteration absence appalling. And that actually makes his line in Avengers about always being angry make sense. Good for you, MCU. Good for you.
Stark, you always wear such nice suits.
Compliments. But that suit's a little dated for my Oh, you mean his other suits. I promise, I'll still get to Ang Lee's Hulk at some point. I may actually prefer that film to this one. I know, unpopular opinion. But there's some really beautiful imagery, a great score, and Jennifer Connelly will always be one of my faves. That said, they could have easily pretended like that movie never happened and given us another Hulk origin story like that other franchise that was rebooted after 5 years-ish. But they didn't. They recapped the origin really quick and then gave us Bruce Banner on the run from the Hulk. The one thing I will say for the Incredible Hulk is that it's a little more accessible than Ang Lee's. It's more a fun summer blockbuster, as brutal as the ending goes out. I find that the main theme in this film is one of control in one form or another. Each character is trying to exert their own control over their lives and situations. Ross wants to control the Hulk for military purposes. He's also trying to undo what he feels he did wrong, especially his failure in not being able to properly protect Betty. Blonsky wants to control and harness the power of the Hulk for himself, expecting to be able to control his addiction as he slowly gives into it. And then the other side of that quest for control is Stern, who's more interested in the scientific and notoriety side of the Hulk's gamma poisoning. He pushes Banner to send his blood and really quickly breaks his trust by taking ownership over it and replicating it. Even Betty is trying to take back control of her life by dating nice guy Phil. And obviously, Banner's entire life is about control. Controlling his emotions, his surroundings, even trying to control how others interact with him, because if he loses control, he really loses control entirely. It's the control freak's worst nightmare. The Hulk isn't trying to control anything. He just is. In fact, he's the antithesis of control. In this film, he's like a time bomb that could go off at any moment. We even get the ticking of Banner's beeping pulse monitor as an allusion to that. And when Hulk does show up, he's not a hero. And while we know who he is, he's presented to the audience the same way he's unveiled to the commandos, as a scary rage monster, Savage Hulk, which seems to be all we ever get. I'm not saying I ever expect to get a live-action Maestro Hulk, but I mean, he was supposed to be Green Scar on Sakaar. I guess it would have been too confusing for the MCU's established Hulk. Anyway, they did tone the Savage down a bit when they got to Avengers, but we still see glimpses of it. And while I think Mark Ruffalo is amazing and really made the role his own, Ragnarok really solidified that for me, Edward Norton will always be one of my favorite actors. He's the perfect cast for a slinking around guy, and his wiry frame is physically one of the most fun counterparts to Hulk we've ever gotten. And I mean, the dude is pretty much alone for the first act of the film, just staring at screens and flirting with Brazilian supermodel factory workers and failing at Portuguese. I often wonder how actors feel when they turn down a role and then the franchise blows up. Norton strikes me as the type of guy who's just as content to do a Birdman, and oh, he's in Isle of Dogs. So excited for that. Although ScarJo and Jeff Goldblum are also in that, so I guess Marvel didn't have any conflicts. Can I do a Wes Anderson movie on this channel? I don't even know. I guess if I can do Edgar Wright. Hey, stop getting distracted. The rest of the cast was rounded out really well. Liv Tyler actually impressed me, especially playing off Norton. Their relationship feels like it goes back years. Always a Tim Roth fan. Then we got William Hurt, military, manning it up, who I think, is he the only member of the cast to return to the franchise? Hey, at least they fully committed to this continuity. And then, visually, I don't think this film gets enough credit. Hulk films apparently lend themselves to artful representation. I like how often green is used. From the sodas in the factory, a bright green car crossing Bruce's path, to the sheets Bruce sleeps in, to isolated lighting, specifically the lighting outside his home in Brazil that seems to warn of what lurks inside. And then, when they're trying to remove Hulk from Banner, they use greens opposite on the color wheel, purple. Purple antidote, purple lights, purple pants that try to contain Hulk. Where this film shines is obviously its action. The last 15 to 20 minutes are just a no-holds brutal brawl between CGI creations. But the actors that have to act against tennis balls on sticks really sell it. The only movie that might surpass the actual Hulk action is Ragnarok, but I've only seen it once, so I'll have to compare when I get to that. So that's it. That's the last MCU movie. I think. Looking forward to Black Panther. People seem to be happy with it so far. Alright, next 2 weeks will be a little weird. The next Everything Great About video will be Wednesday the 28th. Had to move some stuff around again. And it's a movie that has some people in it. So that's something. The people are in the movie this time around. Man, I am rambling this week. It's the flu. Actually, it's the name brand flu medication I'm on. Which, don't get me wrong, it's awesome. It crushes the flu symptoms so you can work. The trade-off is that it sends your soul to purgatory for 72 hours. So, you know, good and bad.
Sunshine and the rain, love is still the same. Sunshine and the rain.